It is my distinct honor to introduce past District Governor Stella Dongo to our club. Her classification is retail management, as she is, until very recently, the CEO of Pelham's, which is a furniture manufacturer and retailer in Harare, Zimbabwe. She received her bachelor's degree at the University of South Africa with a major in economics. I'm not going to say what year. Stella joined the Highlands Rotary Club in Harare in June of '96, which is in District 7210, which includes the countries of Malawi, Zambia, half of Mozambique, and Zimbabwe. It's a huge district. She held offices of club secretary, director of youth, foundation chair, club and community chairs. She was elected president in 2005-06, then assistant governor for 6 and 8, group study exchange leader to my former district where I was chairman of group study exchange in 2007. That's when I met her. District administrator for 2008. 2008 to 10, she was a district trainer and GSE coordinator for Zimbabwe. In 2010, she was country coordinator for Zimbabwe, which is kind of like an AG for the whole country, right? 2009-10 coordinator for the 3H grant, which I was involved with for community empowerment in Zimbabwe. 2011, she was a district governor nominee and became district governor in 2013-14. Recently and currently, she is the district nominating committee chair of the Governor's Council, and district membership chair. She has been to Zone 20 institutes in Mauritius, Livingstone, and Jerusalem, and to Rotary International Conventions in Birmingham, New Orleans. She traveled with us to that one. Bangkok, Lisbon, Sydney, and Sao Paulo. Accomplishments. First female district governor in her district, 9210, and in Africa. The aforementioned 3H grant, which was for $330,000, followed by a $75,000 advanced business skills development grant for the same areas. She's on the board of World Visions Zimbabwe, Women's University of Africa, Pelham's, which was the company she worked at, and is active in her Anglican church. This past week, Stella was honored as one of the 6 Women of Action at Rotary Day at the United Nations. What an honor. Those 6 people were selected from over 110 nominations, so it's a select company. She was married to the late Manuel Dongo for 32 years, is the mother of 8, and we brought one for show and tell here, and is blessed by 8 wonderful grandchildren. Please welcome a great Rotarian and our dear, dear close friend, PDG Stella Dongo.
Greetings, fellow Rotarians. President Dennis, fellow Rotarians and guests, thank you for having us and for hosting me and my daughter. And thank you to Tom and Marilyn, who have made this visit possible for us to be here. I'm going to share with you briefly about the project that we did in Harare, we're doing in Harare, that gave rise to the award that RI bestowed on us, on me, or on the project. I met Tom and Mary Lou in 2007, as they said, when I was on group study exchange. During that time, we were in discussion with a club in Colorado, Denver Mile High, on how we could assist a community in Harare, Zimbabwe, that was in distress. The economic meltdown, which was worldwide around 2008, impacted really in a harsh way on communities in Zimbabwe. And this particular community, they was by and large a huge unemployment level. In Zimbabwe, we pride ourselves that we have a very high literacy level. In fact, we're the highest in the world, sorry, in Africa, only followed by Tunisia. So you have these thousands of young people coming out of college, having a degree, and still unable to find employment. So the economic situation was that most of the people in this community were unemployed, and they really didn't have much of means of feeding their families. Hungry families, no opportunities for sustenance for themselves and for their families. They approached us as Rotarians because we'd been working in that community, doing largely HIV and AIDS awareness programs for about 4 years in that area. And they approached us and asked us if we could help them in 3 distinct ways. They wanted to know how they could help themselves in terms of earning a living. They wanted us to find ways for youth engagement because of the problem that I talked about of young unemployed youths. They also wanted more support with HIV and AIDS issues, which was at that time a really, really high prevalence rate and a lot of stigma. I think it's the stigma more than anything else that made it worse. So we went on between us, Rotary Club of Ireland and the Rotary Club of Denmark, by Mile High, started looking at ways to address these needs that the community approached us about. So it was at that time that I did this visit to upstate New York with a team of young professionals in group study exchange. And I met Tom. Tom was the coordinator for the district for the group study exchange, and Mary Lou. And during the course of that trip, we just became great friends. But we also shared a lot about Rotary. We talked about issues in Africa, back home, and what we were facing. And at the time, I didn't realize how far this would go. Months later, we were busy putting up this application for Rotary Foundation to fund the project that we had come up with as a solution to these problems. And we needed to raise a lot of money to match up to the budget that we had presented to Rotary Foundation. So we went back to our friends, got in touch with Tom and Mary Lou, and said, we have this project. Would you like to come on board? And they did. And District 7120 was one of the districts that came to participate in this. So in the end, to cut a long story short about that part of it, this project ended up being a multi-district and club project for 3 districts. 7120, upstate New York, 9210, which is my district, and 5450, which is in Denver. So 3 districts and some 20 clubs, all in all, probably, all came together and contributed. So when I think about the award and think about the outcome of this, I am quick to remember that so many Rotarians, so many clubs, and a total of 3 districts really and truly were all part of this project and helped us tremendously to get through. What did we do? We came up with 3 key solutions and programs that we ran in the community. We had, the first component was called self-help groups. Some of you may be familiar with that concept. Self-help groups is where we got the women to come together in smaller groups of 12 to 15 And together, they pool resources, and we provided them with basic business skills. So we gave them training in basic business skills, and they mobilized their own resources, saving as little as $1 per week to pool the resources. But the women were so encouraged and so motivated, they started to grow these savings and mobilize their resources, and started to really feel the difference in their lives. Because now they were starting from peanut butter making projects to garment making, to poultry, and so on, and growing according to their resources as they went along. So that was the self-help group part of it. We also had the youth engagement, which we called youth-friendly corners. In the youth-friendly corners, was really, we provided the youth with a place to hang around. You know, because the problem was they were just loitering the streets with nothing productive happening. So we created these youth-friendly corners where we just put up basic equipment like a computer, printer, and maybe facility to help them access internet or something like that. And we provided them with similar training, leadership training, peer education, as well as some business training as well. And so the youth engagement program also grew, and some of the youths that we have now have been not only able to sustain themselves, but also to participate as service providers to the program. We also had the other part of the program, which we called we called Living Well program. This was the build-up on the earlier work that we've done with AIDS awareness and education. So we continued on that program with emphasis to, you know, good care, as well as providing education, as well as engaging the community to fight the stigma. And that also was a very successful part. So in those three programs, we were able to train through about 6,000 participants that went through the program over a period of 4 years. Spin-off of the project, the beneficiaries, we estimated to be in the region of about 250,000 within the community, if you look at an average family, and those that provided the service and those that kind of generally benefited from what was happening in that community. That was over 4 years, the first part of the really big grant that we did. We then did another global grant under the new RI programs, which is now called Global Grants. We did in the past year a 75,000 grant. The first one was 330,000 worth over 4 years. We did 75,000 over a period of 1 year. And this time we just selected the most successful of those that had gone through the first training and gave them a top-up of the business skills and sort of increased and advanced their skills in business. And this has been very successful. The other thing that we also did was that most of these women who were in the self-help groups saw what the young people were doing with the computers and so on, and they requested if they could also be given computer training. And we facilitated in the run-up grant and gave them computer training. And this has been really amazing, where some of the participants maybe from the ages of 40. My most memorable one is a 72-year-old participant who is running a business in a preschool business, and she did the basics business skills and also took up the basic computer skills training. And this 72-year-old, she's pint-sized. She is so cute. I wish I could show the pictures. She has learned to use the computer. She can use the computer for her business to keep records and things like that. But she's on the social media. She has an email address, and she's able to communicate with friends and family in different parts of the world. But I think the real story behind this project, which to me is the message that I like to share, is the fact that this is a community that was touched by Rotary. This is a community that was completely transformed and empowered by Rotary. This is a community that's completely changed today. If you saw their faces, their expressions at the beginning of the project, and at the end of it, you would be totally stunned because they are completely transformed. They feel empowered. They can send their children to school. They can feed their families. They have thriving businesses. They are, by and large, an example of how the cycle of poverty can really and truly be broken. Because when you see them, and what they've achieved and what they have done, you can see how, as Rotarians, we can actually change and make a difference to communities and to the world that we live in. So I'm very grateful for all those that have been part of this. And Tom and Mary Lou definitely traveled to Zimbabwe with a whole lot of other American Rotarians who came from Denver and participated with those groups, with the training, and interacted with them. So lots of Rotarians were part of it, and we are really, really astonished at what was achieved at the end of this. So that's really what the project was about. That's the project that won the award. But I also wanted to just talk a little bit about the Musingwa school project, which we've been talking about. Musingwa community.
Yeah, I've got to say that Stella didn't make this presentation. I made this from what I knew, so this isn't from her, so we'll do our best.
We stumbled upon this community. I think in somewhere in the CV that Tom read, it mentioned World Vision Zimbabwe. It's an NGO in Zimbabwe that I am on their board, and we travel to some of the communities where they're also doing some work. And this community is right in the remote parts of Zimbabwe. Okay, here's a map of Zimbabwe. And you can see that it's on the border of Mozambique, just about. It's 250 kilometers from Harare, where we're based. So we were out there on a completely different assignment when we came across this community and saw the facilities in the school that these children were having to head as their school. This is kind of a map of the area. The school has about 350 students and services all those villages around it. It's the nearest school that they can access. It's in a very poor and remote part of the country. It's in the rural areas, and it's called Mzarabani, the area that we have just talked about. It's a very dry area, and it's also prone to floods. So they have two extremes. and hardly much in terms of a harvest, in terms of agricultural activity. Yeah. Yeah, I've already mentioned the 8 villages. There are some primary schools around the area, and because of where it is located, kids often have difficulty to actually access the school because of the surrounding rivers and so on during the rain season. At the time that we visited this place, they had, sorry, can I have the next slide? This is what we found. Now, Zimbabwe is a pretty developed country, and Harare is, a modern city to a very large extent. And this is not typical of what you would find in most places, even in the rural parts of Zimbabwe. So this was pretty shocking to us to find a school that is still in that state. The structures, as you can see, Paul and Daga, and there was just an attempt at a classroom block which the local community had started to do but had no resources and could not finish. But these structures were so bad that when it rains, there's no school, because as you can see there, the water can just run through the classroom, and the teachers can't put up charts or anything like that because they're blown away, because the wind gets in and so on. But the one that touched us the most was this one, where the one student died because a blackboard fell on the child during classes. So Rotary, my club, got together and talked about this and presented it to the club, and we immediately set about to assist the school in putting up at least one block of a classroom. And we didn't do this with Rotary Foundation. We mobilized funds mostly from Rotarians, from friends, and from well-wishers. And I don't have the picture here, but this is the, can I have the one back? Yeah. This is the classroom block that we were building. So now that structure is finished, it's beautiful, it's in place. The kids now really and truly have at least somewhere sheltered and decent and conducive for classes. There's still a lot of other needs around it because they need more classroom blocks, they need other various facilities to make it a reasonably good, conducive environment. But one of the things that we found out over and above that, over and above the problem of the infrastructure, is also that the school has no access to clean water. They have no access to clean water. The nearest facilities is 2 to 5 miles, and even that is not always reliable, that facility for clean water. So the community still has a whole lot of other needs, but we felt this need for water is one that our club is now focusing and looking to say, you know, if we could at least bring some water and sanitation to the school, I think that would definitely improve the well-being of the students and the reasonable comfort. And this is some of the, this is what it will cost in the various areas to do water and sanitation. But really and truly, for our club, we are looking at just taking chunks out of it and possibly see how we can assist this community. And therefore, I'm here today not only to share the good news on the work that we've been doing, but to also share with you this worthy project in a remote part of Zimbabwe for a community that is really in need, and hope that the Rotary Club of Ocala will join us as Rotary Club of Highlands, and perhaps together we can do something to make a difference in this part of the world. I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you and to share what we are doing and what is still possible. President Dennis, thank you very much for facilitating. I will certainly still be here at the end of the presentation, at the end of the meeting, should there be questions that people would like to ask and discuss with me. I thank you.
We'd just like to thank you. It was an honor to have you here, and boy, it's troubling to see all the struggles in other parts of the world, and hopefully our club and other clubs can reach out and help you. But a token of our appreciation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.